Uncertainty is a very important factor, and instead of decreasing as time goes on, it grows. Outside in the streets, in the general community, everyone is happy. One hears no protests and certainly sees none. You know, in France or Italy, there would be slogans against the government painted on the walls and fences. By the way, guys, we have protests. In Germany, outside the great cities, perhaps, there's not even this. In the university community, in our own community, you speak privately to your colleagues, some of whom certainly feel as you do. But what do they say? They say, it's not so bad, or you're seeing things, or you're an alarmist. My friends, he's talking about 1933. 1933. And you are an alarmist. You are saying that this must lead to this, and you can't prove it. These are the beginnings, yes, but how do you know for sure when you don't know the end? And how do you know or even surmise the end? On the one hand, your enemies, the law, the regime, the party intimidate you. On the other hand, your colleagues poo-poo you as pessimistic or even neurotic. You are left with your close friends who are naturally people who have always thought as you have. But your friends are fewer now. Some have drifted off somewhere or submerged themselves in their work. Sound familiar, guys? You no longer see as many as you did at meetings or gatherings. Informal groups become smaller. Attendance drops off in little organizations, and the organizations themselves wither. Now, in small gatherings of your oldest friends, you feel that you are talking to yourselves, that you are isolated from the reality of things. This weakens your confidence still further and serves as a further deterrent to what? It is clear all the time that if you are going to do anything, you must make an occasion to do it. You got to plan it, you know. And then you are obviously a troublemaker. So you wait and you wait. But the one great shocking occasion when tens or hundreds or thousands will join with you never comes. That's the difficulty. If the last and worst act of the whole regime had come immediately after the first and smallest thousands, yes, millions, would have been sufficiently shocked if, let us say, the gassing of the Jews in 1943 had come immediately after the German firm stickers on the windows of non-Jewish shops in 1933. My friends, again, that's the difficulty. If the last and worst act of the whole regime had come immediately after the first and smallest, thousands, yes, millions would have been sufficiently shocked if, let us say, the gassing of the Jews, or the gassing of non-vaccinated people, in 1943 had come immediately after the stickers on the windows of non-Jewish shops in 1933. But they did, my friends. It took 10 years. But of course, this isn't the way it happens. In between come all the hundreds of little steps, some of them imperceptible, each of them preparing you not to be shocked by the next. Step C is not so much worse than step B. And if you did not make a stand at step B, why should you at step C? And so on to step D. And one day, too late. Your principles, if you were ever sensible of them, all rush in upon you. The burden of self-deception has grown too heavy, and some minor incident, in my case my little boy hardly more than a baby, saying Jewish swine, collapses it all at once, and you see that everything has changed, and changed completely under your nose. The world you live in, your nation, your people, is not the world you were born in at all. The forms are all there, all untouched, all reassuring, the houses, the shops, the jobs, the mealtimes, the visits, the concerts, the cinemas, the holidays. My friend, sounds familiar? Normal life? But the spirit which you never noticed because you made a lifelong mistake of identifying it with form, I'm going to repeat this again, guys. But the spirit, the neshama, which you never noticed because you made the lifelong mistake of identifying it with the forms, is changed. Now you live in a world of hate and fear, and the people who hate and fear do not even know it themselves. When everyone is transformed, no one is transformed. Right? Nobody recognizes that everything's different, because they all became different, right? They just don't realize it. Now you live in a system which rules without responsibility even to God. My friends, again, if you read about Mr. Mousy, he's a self-professed humanist. He won the Humanist Award, right? He doesn't believe in God. There's no Yirat Shamayim, Yiras Hashem there. The system itself could not have intended this in the beginning, but in order to sustain itself, it was compelled to go all the way. My friends, these people have to go all the way. You see what they're doing now. They're going all the way. They have to. It's too late to turn back. If they turn back, if they stop, their whole thing is going to be exposed. You understand? Either they're going to go to prison, or they're just going to be exposed for the frauds that they are, and nobody's going to believe them, and that's it. And they have to keep going. They have to keep doubling down. They have to keep going in front of Congress, telling Rand Paul that he doesn't know what he's talking about. They have to keep saying, well, no, this wasn't done in Wuhan. This was done in somewhere else. They have to change language. They have to keep obfuscating. They have to keep playing with language. They have to keep, today we saw a video, the guy who created the BioNTech version of Schmeiser. Well, you see, there's a law that we can't even take our own thing, and, we're not even allowed to be given it, and there's a whole protocol, and we can't even participate in the studies. Also, what you're saying is we're participating in the studies. Is that what you're saying? You understand now? But in order to sustain itself, it was compelled to go all the way. You have gone almost all the way yourself. Life is a continuing process, a flow, not a succession of acts and events at all. It has flowed to a new level, carrying you with it, without any effort on your part. On this new level you live. You have been living more comfortably every day with new morals and new principles. You have accepted things you would not have accepted 5 years ago, a year ago, things that your father, even in Germany, could not have imagined. Suddenly it all comes down all at once. You see what you are, what you have done, and more accurately, what you haven't done. For that was all that was required of most of us, that we do nothing, i.e. that we don't comply. You remember those early meetings of your department in the university when one had stood, others would have stood perhaps, but no one stood. A small matter, a matter of hiring this man or that, and you hired this one rather than that. You remember everything now and your heart breaks. Too late. You are compromised beyond repair. What then? You must then shoot yourself? A few did. Or adjust your principles. Many tried and some, I suppose, succeeded. Not I, however. Or learn to relive the rest of your life with your shame. This last is the nearest there is, under the circumstances, to heroism. Shame. Many Germans became this poor kind of hero, many more, I think, than the world knows or cares to know. I said nothing. I thought of nothing to say. My friends, again, a lot of people get offended. They get offended. They say, how could this be? How could this, how could you say that this is the same thing as that other thing? The thing that happened in 1943, 41, 42, 44, whatever. My friends, by the time it got to 1943, people didn't know what happened or how it even happened, my friends. It took about 10 years. And their friends were telling them in 1933 that they're alarmists, they're being alarmist, they're being crazy. What are they talking about? See, it says, once the war began, resistance, protest, criticism, complaint, all carried with them a multiplied likelihood of the greatest punishment. So now we're already 6 years after the first writing. Mere lack of enthusiasm or failure to show it in public was defeatism. You assumed that there were lists of those who would be dealt with later, after the victory. Goebbels was very clever here too. He continually promised a victory orgy to take care of those who thought that their treasonable attitude had escaped notice. And he meant it. That was not just propaganda. That was enough to put an end to all uncertainty. Once the war began, the government could do anything necessary to win it. My friends, you notice all the rules are out the window, right? Out the window. So it was with the final solution of the Jewish problem, which the Nazis always talked about but never dared undertake, not even the Nazis, until war and its necessities gave them the knowledge that they could get away with it. The people abroad who thought that war against Hitler would help the Jews were wrong. And the people in Germany who once the war had begun still thought of complaining, protesting, resisting, were betting on Germany's losing the war. It was a long bet. Not many made it. My friends, we are in 1933, Be'erech 1933, 1934 right now. We're not in 1943. We're not in the camps. Maybe Australia is. I don't know if you guys saw that video recently, past couple of days. I mean, now there are actually protests going around the world for Australia, at Australian embassies all over the world. The question is, does anybody care? I mean, my friends, at the end of the day, you know, the authorities know that we see them. The authorities know that we see what we see. And, you know, they don't really care. Again, they have to keep going. They have to keep going with what they have to keep doing what they're doing, keep going in the direction they're going in. And they know that the people who are talking about this and comparing it to that event, they know that there are going to be enough people who don't have the proper education, right, to understand, and this includes family members of people who perished in that event, to understand how it even got to that point. And they're banking on that. They're banking on enough people squashing those who would compare it to that and be offended and be, you know, say, how dare you, how this, how that. My friends, I mean, that's what they're banking on. And they're using this, obviously they're using it, to install totalitarianism. This is the problem, my friends. You know, people have gotten so comfortable. They've got it into their heads that we are in a post-totalitarian era in society. They don't understand that they are themselves ripe for the taking. They are ripe for the taking. They're like a. If you guys ever see this, there's a statue of, Europa. The lady Europa is ripe for the raping. Sorry guys, there's just a lot of noise here. But anyway guys, you know, you could take this or leave this. You could take this message or leave it. But for the people who understand, you understand. For those who don't understand, I can't help you. You can sit there, you can be offended, you can say, how dare you? You can say, you know, how can you, defame the memory of those who perished in that horrible event? Nothing can compare to that event. Nothing. Or you can actually sit down with your stupid little brick head and you can look at the history of how things led to that event. And realize, my friends, that we are currently in 1933, 1934, 1935. We're not in 1943 or 42 or 41. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Hopefully we won't get there. My friend is asking, instead of focusing your energy on the asleep, or focus your energy on the awake, or those who's starting to wake up, it's less draining. I mean, listen, there's no way for me to know who's waking up and who isn't. I mean, I'm talking to a piece of plastic here. So, Zat Hashem, if you're already awakened, good. But if not, can't help you. I guess you'll wake up soon enough. Alright guys, talk to you soon.